digging deeper into the conversations, trends, and ideas impacting Manhattan and the Flint Hills. This is Within Reason with Mike Matson on News Radio, KMAN.
We are the people of the South Wind, after all, but enough already. I'm a lifelong Kansan, right? I'm growing a little weary of 2 or 3 days of sustained air velocity at 20 miles an hour plus. But I've also lived in Kansas long enough to know that if you don't like the weather, just wait 10 minutes and it's bound to change. Sounds like that's what's going to happen today, and we encourage you to stay close to News Radio KMAN for all the latest related to the weather. My name is Mike Matson. I am your host of Within Reason. We will dig deep into our third week on News Radio KMAN. Our goal and mission is pretty simple. We want to give you, the listener, the opportunity to think deeper, longer, and more critically about the things in our community that are important and impact your life and the life of your family. Our thanks to Stormont Vale Health, to McCown Gordon Construction, and to the Trust Company, the core sponsors of Within Reason. In addition to broadcasting live terrestrially, we are also live streaming on YouTube. Go to that website and search News Radio KMAN. And we're recording the program to be posted as a podcast. I do this for a living. This is words that come through the mouth into the microphone. A podcast on the KMAN website. So if you attend a Manhattan City Commission meeting in person, or if you watch one on TV, you no doubt come away with some sort of a vibe or an impression of the 5 individuals that you have elected to lead our community. We hope to strengthen that vibe and add to your impression with individual, separate, standalone conversations with each of the 5 Manhattan City Commissioners, each with appearances scheduled on this program before Thanksgiving. And we'll kick those conversations off today with City Commissioner Peter Oppelt. First, a little background on the structure and process that brings Peter to our studio today. The Manhattan City Commission consists of 5 at-large commissioners who are elected in odd-numbered years and serve 4 or 2-year terms. Unlike the partisan-by-design county, state, and national elections that we're less than a week away from, the city, the municipal, and school board elections are nonpartisan. In even-numbered years, like this year, the partisan elections, county commission, state legislature, Congress, the primary in August is aimed at producing 1 Democrat and 1 Republican to square off against each other for each office, to be determined in November. Clearly, that's what we're in the middle of now. Reddy versus Starnes for the state Senate, Roser versus Zito for the Kansas House, Buskirk versus Mann for the U.S. House. We've had all those folks on in the last couple of weeks. In the odd-numbered years, the nonpartisan local government elections, the August primary is used to winnow the field, the actual number of candidates. There's a formula that is used. Take the number of open seats times 2 plus 1. For instance, last year, 2023, on the Manhattan City Commission, there were already 3 seats up for election, seats that were occupied by Mark Hattasol, by John Mata, and Linda Morse. A 4th seat on that 5-member city commission became vacant when Yusha Reddy stepped down after being appointed to the state Senate upon the midterm retirement of Tom Hawk, a seat she's seeking to win on her own in this year's partisan election. Stay with me here. We're almost done with this structure and process. It's a bit complicated. So at this time last year, there were 4 Manhattan City Commission seats up for grabs. 9 candidates were on the ballot. Remember that formula, 4 times 2 plus 1. If you were elected in this order, in terms of quantity of votes, the results were Susan Adamchak, Karen McCullough, Peter Oppelt, and John Mata. Because of the number of votes they received, Adamchak and McCullough got the 4-year terms, Oppelt and Mata the 2-year terms. Thoroughly confused? I hope not, because there is still one more wrinkle. John Mata was reelected. He was joined by Adamchak, McCullough, and Oppelt to join incumbent Win Butler. He stepped down from the commission last spring, you'll recall, after plowing his car through a Candlewood storefront. When there's a vacancy, the 4 sitting commissioners appoint someone to fill the unexpired term. The commission appointed Jamie Minton. So your current Manhattan City Commission is Susan Adamchak, John Mata, Karen McCullough, Jamie Minton, and our guest today, Peter Oppelt. Peter, welcome. Sorry for the long-winded introduction.
No, that's great. It's a very thorough explanation of how we got to where we are.
It's one of those things that unless you're literally following it minute by minute, it's kind of hard to keep up with.
It really is.
So give us for those who aren't familiar with you, give us the Peter Oppelt bio.
Well, I grew up in Colorado, joined the Army right after I was in high school, so I came to the area by way of Fort Riley. I got out of the Army in 2015 and chose to attend Kansas State University because it's a great place to go to school. And graduated 3 years later and again chose to stay in Manhattan. So I've been here since 2012 and plan to be here for many years to come.
Walk us through the sort of decision-making process that you went through when you were thinking about running for city commission.
Well, it really started, I think, after the 2022 election. I was kind of frustrated with how many either unopposed or non-competitive races we saw, specifically in the Kansas State House, and that's still something that frustrates me. I think there are only about 36 races out of the almost 150 or so seats in that governing body that are actually competitive. So. I thought about it, and I thought that I can't be frustrated with this without being willing to do something about it myself. And it's very hard to serve in the legislature and work a full-time job. But the city commission was something that seemed available and attainable. So I started looking into it, talked to some folks who were current city commissioners, and had a lot of conversations with my wife about it, and decided that it would be something that I could pursue. So the following February, I heard about a candidate workshop hosted by one Mike Matson.
It was a candidate skills building
workshop. Yes, that's right.
Absolutely.
And attended that, and that's where we first met, and kind of just got into it after that.
It was, just in transparency, that was when I was working at the time for the Manhattan Area Chamber of Commerce, and it was a program that the chamber had put on designed to do exactly what Peter said. Folks interested in running for local government office, to give them the skills and help them understand what's involved in a campaign. Let's talk a little bit about the year that you've been on, almost a year now that you've been on the commission. And you came into this talking, your motivation is pure, that's clear, right? You just mentioned that. In fact, when you look at the county elections this year, 2 county commissioners, all of the county seats, county clerk, county treasurer, all unopposed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the dynamic that you're describing remains alive today.
Yeah.
Right. So when you look at what you do in city government, give us your vision of the role of city government.
Well, I mean, city government, I think, is often the most overlooked, but one of the most impactful of the 3 levels of government, whether it be local, state, or federal. You interact with your city government or even county government on an almost daily basis. Anytime you turn on the sink, drive down the road, flush the toilet, that is municipal government in action. I kind of went through a bit of a libertarian phase when I was in college. The argument there is that government should be as close to the people that they serve as possible. And there really isn't a form of government that's closer than municipal government. And we are able to, as best as possible, we're not going to make everybody happy, but we are at least closest to the issues to be able to make those kinds of decisions.
In addition to some of that musical chairs drama that we had discussed earlier in the show, right? And you guys, the commission faced a pretty significant task right away this year with the retirement of Ron Fear as city manager. Ron had served in that capacity for 24 years, and had built sort of an MO and a lot of relationships and a lot of trust, and there was that's a huge and significant sort of event in local government, and so clearly you were involved with that, right? So right away you got your feet to the fire. Yeah,
and when you think about the 3 branches of federal government, right? The city manager really is the executive. They do report to the city commission, but they are then in charge of managing all of the day-to-day operations of the city. And the city commission, really, we approve the budget and pass ordinances, but when it comes to making those types of decisions, it really does fall on the city manager. And I was very nervous, but also excited to be able to have a say in kind of the future of our city.
And walk us through what that process looked like when it came to hiring a city manager.
Yeah, so we did decide to do a national search. We hired a company out of Dallas, Texas that specializes in executive local government hiring, and they put together, they did several interviews with folks around the community, with us, to put together a profile of the type of person that we're looking for, and then did a national search. We had our search committee file it down to 10 folks. They did Zoom interviews, and then we had 4 candidates that we brought into Manhattan.
And you hired Danielle Doolin. She's been on the job here about as long as this program has been on the air, in fact.
Yeah.
2.5 weeks. What's your early impression of her?
I think she's going to be great. She comes to us from a small town in Missouri, Warrensburg, that is very similar to Manhattan. They have a university. They have a military installation close by. And they face a lot of the same challenges that we do. So, she's eager to grow her career and to take that next step. So I think she's the type of person that we need right now.
When you think about Ron Fear, 24 years in the job, that was the outlier, right? Most folks
Absolutely.
At that level do not serve that long in that position.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is probably, I'm making an assumption here, check me on it. I would make an assumption that it is unrealistic to expect a professional at this point in her career to expect Danielle to stay here 24 years.
I would assume so, yeah.
Fair enough. We'll get into more of that. We're visiting with Peter Oppelt. He is a Manhattan City Commissioner. The program is Within Reason. You're listening to us on News Radio KMAN. Stay with us. We'll be back with more and Manhattan City Commissioner Peter Oppelt.
This is Within Reason with Mike Matson on News Radio KMAN.
At Stormont Vale Health, high-quality care is right around the corner.
Stormont Vale is more than just a health system. We're your neighbors, dedicated to supporting the well-being of our community and the Flint Hills region. With our strong partnerships, including collaborations with the Mayo Clinic Care Network, other healthcare providers, and various community organizations, we're committed to offering personalized, high-quality care when and where you need it most.
Stormont Vale Health, high-quality care closer to home.
I'm Senator Yusha Reddy. I've seen firsthand how state policies impact local communities. My experience provides me with a deep understanding of investing in our people by creating jobs, investing in infrastructure, and enhancing quality of life. I've supported Medicaid expansion and protected reproductive rights, issues that matter deeply to our community. This election, it's critical to have a voice that can work across the aisle and fight for you in the Senate. I'm Yusha, ready to serve, asking for your vote on or before November 5th.
Paid for by Ready for Kansas Senate, Katha Hurt, Treasurer.
When it comes to floors, here at Carpet One, we live by a simple set of beliefs. Do right by our customers. Listen to what they say, respect their time, don't give them anything less than what they want. But most important, show them what we stand for. With expertise, passion, and digital tools, it all adds up to one thing, a simple floor buying experience. We have a variety of in-stock luxury vinyl planks, tile, and carpet we would love to show you. Here to floor you at your local Carpet One Floor and Home. Visit us today at 501 Fort Riley Boulevard.
Larry, Steve, and Rudy, the Gatlin brothers, have dazzled audiences for more than 69 years, accruing a lifetime of noteworthy achievements in their storybook career, including a Grammy for Best Country Song. The Gatlin brothers have entertained audiences on stages all over the world, from the Grand Ole Opry to Carnegie Hall. Don't miss the Gatlin Brothers Country and Christmas Show at Kansas State University's McCain Auditorium, Friday, December 6th. Buy tickets online, by phone, or at the box office. Sponsored by Strecker Nelson West Gallery and Custom Frames.
The Ramsey Show.
Up to 50% of American families are paying their adult children's bills to an average of $1,482 a month. Wow. I've never seen it like this. 25% of millennials, their parents are paying their housing, house payment, their rent, or they're living in their basement. You pay your kids' bills. Psychologists call that enabling. As a matter of fact, enabling is quite the opposite of loving.
Go from paycheck to purpose with The Ramsey Show. Weekdays 10 to 1 on News Radio KMAN. This is Within Reason with Mike Matson on News Radio KMAN.
We are visiting with Peter Oppelt. He is a Manhattan City Commissioner. He was elected this time last year. He will serve a 2-year term, so he's probably just about halfway through his first term. We'll talk later on about what his future might bring. Peter, we were talking before the break about the new city manager, and you'd mentioned the way you interpret that with respect to the city commission as one employee, the city manager, and that individual then is in charge of all the various departments. When you came into this job, clearly every year the city commission has to formulate a budget. Talk to us about, just in a large general sense, what that experience was like.
Boy, it was like getting hit with a tidal wave. I knew it was going to be complicated. I had done some work at the Kansas Department of Revenue analyzing tax legislation. So I followed the state legislature quite a bit. So I knew a bit about what goes into a budget. But even a municipal budget like ours is incredibly complicated and has so many different streams of revenue, different buckets of accounting. It's really hard.
And when you'd mentioned this earlier, right? And I would suspect that this notion of the professional staff weighing in with their ideas and their recommendations, right? That's gonna mean a lot to the elected city commissioners, especially those of you who are new, right? And so where do you find that balance between what you as an elected leader need to do to represent your constituency, and then what the appointed leaders of government are doing to try to put forth their ideas?
Well, you said it. You do have to find a balance, because at the end of the day, we still have to run a functioning government. And I am not a professional city planner, traffic engineer, any of those things. And so I do have to take their recommendations as kind of a first draft. And then we also have to balance the financial interests both of the city organization and the individual, because we have everyone who lives in Manhattan is either directly or indirectly affected by property taxes. Even if you don't own a property, landlords will raise their rents if they feel like they need to in order to keep up with property tax increases. So we do have to find a very fine balance there.
The previous commission, again, city commissions are designed to be nonpartisan. But that doesn't mean that ideas and ideology still doesn't seep into the conversation. And so the previous city commission held the line, right? They were very, very, very stringent about this notion of holding the line on property tax increases. And they had enough votes to do that, right? When you guys took over, right, that sort of went away a little bit. So how did that impact the conversations that you all had when it came to trying to figure out how you're going to pay for all this stuff?
Sure. And yeah, you're right. They did try their best to keep mill levy increases down. They did reduce the mill levy in 2023 from what it was in 2020, or for the 2024 budget from what it was in the 2023 budget, which they intended to do that to dip into our cash reserves, which were quite large, and the intent was to rely on what it was expected to be increasing sales taxes, because almost 90% of the city's budget is sales taxes. Only about 10% is property taxes. So they intended it for the city to be able to rely on sales taxes. That didn't quite work out as well as they hoped. And we ended up in 2020, at the end of 2023, with about an $8 million cash reserve. And it's best, like a home budget, to keep about 3 months of expenses in your cash reserve. So we had to balance that with revenue, and it was challenging. And to me personally, I ended up not feeling like I had enough information to justify the tax increase that ended up being passed.
Let's talk about that. What now that you've been through one, right? Mm-hmm. Now that you've been through a budget, you say you needed more information. Tell us how that looked this year. What did you try to do to get more information, and then what might you do next year in order to get that information?
Yeah, so I think the hardest part was that I didn't quite know the questions that I needed to ask. I took the information that I was given and made the best decision that I could with it. moving on to next year, I would really like for us to be able to do a little bit more detailed analysis of historically where our expenses have risen, because they have. We had about a 200% increase in property and liability insurance premium between 2022 and 2023. There are increases in salaries, things like that. So I would like for us to be able to have that information and show that information to the public of, we say that asphalt costs more money. How much is it increasing, and can we show that to folks? I think just being able to give that information will make it a lot easier to justify things if that needs to happen, or to look for those efficiencies that we can talk about.
And I'll make an assumption, and we haven't visited with them yet. You're the first that we're going to visit with respect to a standalone conversation with individual city commissioners. But my gut would tell me, my experience would tell me, just judging from what I have seen in the Manhattan City Commission, that you have fellow commissioners who feel the same way.
I'd say so. I don't know any of us would say that we don't need more information, because the more information you have, I feel like you can make a better decision. It's a challenge right now. We are short a couple of key positions in the finance department. So our finance director is working triple and quadruple duty sometimes, and we're updating our financial management system to hopefully be able to give us more information more easily. We have a very outdated system right now. So, that's a challenge, and we're working through that. I think I don't want to say that our city staff is not doing the best job that they can, because they are.
Sure.
It's just there are only so many hours in the day.
Well, and we touched on this earlier. You guys have one employee. She is new. She reports to you all, and so there will be some stars that could potentially align that would get you guys that are elected by us where you want to be.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk. We intend to dedicate some time on this program within reason on this question specifically, but let's get your thoughts on it now. The Riley County Police Department is our law enforcement agency here in Manhattan and in Riley County. It is governed by a standalone law board that includes elected members of the City Commission and elected members of the County Commission and some citizens at large. But it's sort of a unique duck in terms of the way it is governed, especially when you compare it to the way police departments in other communities are governed. For the most part, police departments in other communities in Kansas tend to fall under the umbrella of city government. Here it's not, and it's by design. It's that way by design. Former city manager Ron Fear would often lament the challenges that brought, especially come budget time, because his concern was that he can control, as city manager, the Parks and Rec budget, right? He that individual reports to him. Same with community development, same with public works, all of the city departments, the airport, but none over the police department, right? And at the end of the day, they would come with budget numbers that he really didn't have the opportunity to play with and massage. What's your impression of that system at this point?
It is certainly unique. I think there's one other county. I think maybe Wyandotte has their unified government. I think they may be the only other community in Kansas with that system, and it is unique and certainly a challenge. I think about 56% of our mill levy goes to the Riley County Police Department. So over half of our property taxes that we collect go to the Riley County Police Department. And yeah, it is certainly a challenge. And we've heard from community members that, some ideas of how we could make that a little bit more accountable to voters, especially with those at-large appointed seats that are not elected, but are still, in a way, making tax decisions. So that's kind of a unique situation. There are some ideas of how we could change that, making the board made up of only elected officials. I've also heard some ideas of this would require state legislation, but making the law board its own separate taxing entity that would then all of the members of the board would be elected. So I think that it's certainly, there is a conversation to be had there. I don't know how that will turn out, but
fair enough. And it's also important to point out that there's no one in the community that would argue that law enforcement and the police duties that department does is not important, right?
Absolutely.
Everyone wants public safety. The argument, the conversation tends to just center around structure and process and governance.
That's right.
It's not law enforcement. No one is trying to cut the police department. They are trying to figure out a way that budget makes more sense with what everyone else is trying to do in the city and the county. Is that a fair assessment?
yeah, absolutely.
So will you be a leader in that conversation? Will you try to get that going?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I can't argue with that, right? This is why we're having these conversations, so that we can get the community a little more informed on just the conversations that are underway. Let's talk a little bit about Parks and Rec, right? A couple of years ago, it kind of blew up, and we seem to have found an equilibrium now. There's an ongoing, I describe it as chronic, conversation in this community about indoor water. The leader, Aaron Stewart, who's going to be on this show, by the way, with Gail Urban, who chairs the community foundation that is connected to Parks and Rec. They're going to be on here in a week or two, and we'll talk specifically about this. But they've got some pretty big ideas related to what they want to do. Where do you come down on indoor water and what that needs to look like?
Yeah, well, I mean, Aaron certainly is a very ambitious person. He's got really, really big goals for the Parks and Rec department in Manhattan, and I think that's really great. It's important for us to dream big and see where we can get. As far as indoor water, that is a very challenging topic. I was asked about that, during the election, and it's not going to get any cheaper to build a pool. It's just a matter of figuring out who should pay for it, and there are so many different opinions. I think that it would be an asset to the community, to the city of Manhattan, the school district, the university. It could even, and so I believe that that requires some collaboration between at least all three of those, if not the county as well. Just because it's such a large project, and it's just a hard question, because you talk about sales tax. Well, who does sales tax really ends up affecting? People at the lower end of the economic distribution the most, because they pay the most proportionally of their income in sales taxes. But then there is the argument that we can collect sales taxes from our visitors that we have. So we have people outside of the community that are helping pay for that. It's just it's really difficult, and we've got to figure out how to keep and maintain that once we have it built. And that is also very expensive.
What we're learning from Peter Oppelt, the Manhattan City Commissioner, is that this is a tough job, right? And every question we're asking, he is walking through the challenges that they are facing. So before I forget, thanks for your service. Thanks for offering yourself on the ballot. On behalf of those of us in the community who don't do that, we appreciate your service very much.
Thank you.
Peter Oppelt is Manhattan City Commissioner, and you are listening to him on Within Reason. My name is Mike Matson. He talked a little bit about collaboration with other entities within the system, within the community, specifically as it relates to indoor water. We'll drill into that a little bit when we continue. Stay with us. This is Within Reason on News Radio KMAN.
This is Within Reason with Mike Matson on News Radio KMAN.
At Buck Roofing and Construction, they do more than just roofing and gutters. They also offer a wide range of siding options as well. Whether you are in need of siding, a whole new roof, gutters, or just a repair, Buck Roofing can do it all. Call for a free, no-obligation estimate today, 785-230-9379, or visit rbuckroofing.com. Buck Roofing, where quality and professionalism come first.
This is Raleigh County Commissioner Catherine Foke, and I'm a candidate for re-election in the 3rd District. 4 years ago, I ran because I wanted to improve local government services for all Raleigh County citizens, and we've made a lot of progress. Working together, we were successful in building a new ambulance station to better serve residents in northern Raleigh County, and we've worked on behalf of the residents of Keats to build a new wastewater system to be funded by state and federal grants. I'm Commissioner Catherine Foke. Please vote on or before November 5th for another 4 years of progress.
Paid for by committee
to re-elect Catherine for Riley County. Gabriel Kerr, Treasurer.
At Meadowlark, every day is game day. Our team is recruiting nurses and certified nurse assistants for full-time and part-time positions in long-term and post-acute care. This game-winning environment is perfect for passionate and dedicated all-star caregivers. Join the Meadowlark team today and take advantage of increased differentials for night and weekend shifts. To learn more, call 785-323-3898 or search online for Meadowlark Careers in Manhattan, Kansas. MVPs work at Meadowlark.
All the way to the goal in the throwdown.
Man.
He's open for three. Yes! Yes!
A Wildcat.
3 seconds to go. Scoop shot. Yes! And the buzzer.
Be a part of the Wildcat voyage right here.
Now goes back in. There's the lob and the throwdown.
On your home for Kansas State Wildcat basketball. The Cats play here. 1350 AM, 93.3 and 93.7 FM. This is News Radio KMAN. This is Within Reason with Mike Matson on News Radio KMAN.
The program is Within Reason. I am your host, Mike Matson. Our guest today is Manhattan City Commissioner Peter Oppelt, and we're visiting with Peter about all things involved with the City Commission. He's talked a little bit about what it means to build a budget. He's been through one. He's got some ways to make it better next year. Before the break, we were talking about indoor water and the collaboration that might be needed to bring other systems to the table. What's that look like these days?
Well, we're trying to have a good relationship with all of the entities outside of Manhattan and inside, the university, Fort Riley, and the county. We do have some conversations with the school district and things like that, just kind of outside of meetings. I did just actually get an invitation to a student government association. We're going to have a joint meeting at the end of November, which will be really cool. I'm excited about that. Have some collaboration with the students. And I think that's really the most important thing, is just having that open communication and having that those conversations.
We'll have K-State President Richard Linton on this program next week, and we intend to ask him that question as well. And it's no secret that President Linton has sort of changed the direction of the strategy related to K-State, whereas you could make an argument before it tended to be a bit more Manhattan-centric than it is now. His notion is we are Kansas State University, and we cover the entire state. You can't argue with that, right? But that does bring some new dynamics with respect to what happened before and what it's going to be like now.
Yeah, and that's really interesting, and just the changing dynamics of how people are educated. I know that K-State just announced that they had over 20,000 enrolled students this year for the first time in a couple of years, and that's fantastic. I do wonder how many of those students are online and not in the city of Manhattan.
Right.
So, I totally understand where they're coming from, but at the same time, they're trying to bring in quality talent and quality students. And if we have a great community that is attractive to those folks, it'll just be better for them as well. So it's a balance.
Sure.
Again,
one of those things that is involved in that conversation is, where will people live, right? When we attract people to Manhattan, we're not alone in communities in Kansas, in this country, facing challenges related to housing. And I know that the City Commission has spent a lot of time dealing with this year. Do you feel good about where you are now?
I think we've made some progress. We've made progress, and look, this is a national challenge, and it is not something that we're going to solve in 1 year or even 2 years. We're going to have to try to do things that haven't been done before. We're probably going to get some things wrong, but hopefully we get some things right, and we can learn from our mistakes and just keep making things better.
Do you have a sense, Peter, of the severity of the problem in Manhattan in terms of people looking for places to live?
Yeah, I mean, we have, I think, I don't know what the exact number is of listings, but I've heard numbers of 60 to 70 houses on the market for a city the size of Manhattan is not great. And the rental market, I think we're well above 90% occupancy for rentals. So our biggest challenge is stock and inventory. And that's difficult because it takes a long time to build these things, and it takes a lot of money. So we've got to work on our inventory and kind of take things one bite at a time.
Peter Oppelt is a Manhattan City Commissioner, and we're talking about all things local government. At the beginning of the hour, you had mentioned that the local government is the one government that is closest to the people, and the things that we are talking about indicate that right away. Housing, indoor water, right? Budgets for the police department, all of those things. Let's talk a little bit about how you communicate. I've seen that you post videos on social media. My sense is that you do them as soon as you can after a commission meeting. What's your motivation there?
Really just to try and reach out to folks. It can be intimidating to go to a meeting for sure, and to put on we do have our live streams on Facebook and YouTube, and you can watch those after the fact, but we have 3-hour meetings, so it can be really difficult to sift through one of those broadcasts to find what you're interested in. So I really wanted to be able to make myself available and to make my thought process more clear to folks, because I fully realize that I'm going to make decisions that people disagree with. I'm never going to make everybody happy, but I've always told people that I will be able to explain why. And like we talked about, just conveying the complications and the nuance that go into these decisions that we have to make is really difficult to do, when we're just sitting in front of the dais. So I really just want to be able to make myself available and share my thoughts and process for making my decisions.
One of the premises of this program, Within Reason, on News Radio KMAN, is to try to allow listeners to give a little more thought, right? Think a little longer, a little deeper, a little more critically about all of these issues. And honestly, a huge part of our motivation and the motivation of Manhattan Broadcasting Company and our sponsors who are involved with this program is to cut through some of the clutter that you find on social media, right? And so you put yourself right in the middle of that, and then you're basically doing the same thing. You're relying on people to cut through that to understand what you're trying to communicate.
Yeah, and then the comments sections can be a challenge, because I do want to be able to interact with folks, but it's difficult to do even through an email or in a comment section. So I've also had a few coffees. I'll just say, hey, I'm going to be at this location on Saturday morning. Come and have a conversation, and those have been very good. Because people can come and give public comment at our meetings, but as a rule, we don't respond back to public comment, and it's not very productive to have a dialogue. Yeah. And I think that is the most important thing, is that we have conversations and realize that you're probably not going to get everything that you want, but maybe we can work something out that you feel like you didn't lose everything.
You're talking about the structure and process of the actual city commission meetings, right? And
yeah.
Those are as like anything, those evolve over time based on experience and what works and what doesn't work. Do you think there needs to be a conversation about another evolution of the way those things are run?
I don't know. I think people. Maybe we need to have some more dedicated events where the commission is there to be more engaged in a discussion, because the hard part is we do still have business to handle at a meeting, and so we need to find that balance of allowing people to say their piece, and they have every right to be able to do that, but we do also have to handle regular business. So I would really like for us to find a good way to be more engaged in discussion with people as a body and amongst ourselves too. We don't have a lot of great conversations amongst ourselves. Just the way that we're structured and the way that we're seated, honestly, makes it kind of hard to have a conversation.
And you're also hamstrung by the Kansas Open Meetings Law, right?
Yes.
You can only get X, what is the number on a 5-member body?
We can't have, we really can't have more than 2 people together talking about city business without having an open meeting.
So you could have lunch with Commissioner Mata. You could have a cup of coffee with Commissioner McCullough, 2-on-2 or 1-on-1.
Yeah.
But if you would try to bring a third person in there, you're breaking the law.
Absolutely.
All right, fair enough. We're visiting with Peter Oppelt. He is a Manhattan City Commissioner. He is the first of 5 such interviews that we will feature on this program before Thanksgiving. When we come back after the break, we'll visit with Peter a little bit about development. We'll visit with him a little bit about what he thinks is coming down the pike, and we'll talk about his political future. My name is Mike Matson. The program is Within Reason, and you're listening on News Radio KMAN.
This is Within Reason with Mike Matson on News Radio KMAN.
Stormontvale Health is your go-to for exceptional care right in your own neighborhood.
The Flint Hills campus in Junction City is open 24/7 with a full-service hospital and rural health clinic. You'll find primary care and advanced lab services at our Wamego clinic to keep your family healthy without the drive. Our Manhattan campus offers a wide range of primary and specialty providers, plus imaging and lab services, and a pick-me-up at Radina's inside our campus. Visit stormontvale.org.
Stormontvale Health. High-quality care closer to home.
The 7th Annual Young Trustees Chili Cook-Off presented by St. Gordon returns Saturday, November 2nd. Join us at 1960 Kimball in the KSU Office Park across from the stadium. You'll taste over 25 different chilies with all ticket proceeds and prize money donated to local nonprofit organizations. Plus, enjoy live entertainment, a cinnamon roll eating contest, and a huge Jumbotron to watch the game while you enjoy a cold beer. Join Manhattan Broadcasting at the 7th Annual Young Trustees Chili Cook-Off presented by St. Gordon, Saturday, November 2nd. Tickets and chili kits available now at mhkchili.com.
This is Linda Morse. 40 states have approved Medicaid expansion, but not Kansas. In 10 years, $7 billion of your tax dollars have gone elsewhere to fund their hospitals and health care needs. Those tax dollars need to come home. As your voice in Topeka, I will support Medicaid expansion, and I ask for your vote on November 5th.
Paid for by Linda Morris for Kansas House. Roger Hamilton, Treasurer.
Discover a world where art meets light using cutting-edge exhibitions that explore visual art, the creative process, and digital technology. The Museum of Art and Light has arrived in Manhattan and is the place where people from all walks of life will be totally engaged in an electrifying, breathtaking experience. The Museum of Art and Light is the first contemporary art museum to blend immersive, digital, and physical art all under one roof. Bring your friends and family to experience the beauty of the art like never before. For more information, you can find them online at artlightmuseum.org.
There's only one place to go for the best digital advice. That's the Kim Komando Show, every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. with me, America's digital goddess Kim Komando, on News Radio KMAN.
KMAN's Morning News, tomorrow morning 6 to 9. This is Within Reason with Mike Matson on News Radio KMAN.
Our guest is Peter Oppelt. He is a city commissioner on the Manhattan City Commission. We'll talk to him here a little further about some other issues that are coming before the city. The Trust Company is an independent, locally owned wealth management and investment company that's founded right here in Manhattan in 1992. The experienced professionals at the Trust Company are recruited specifically for their financial, legal, accounting, and business expertise. But they're also your neighbors who, guided by your hopes and your dreams, will come to deeply understand your aspirations and goals. The Trust Company, locally owned, client-focused. Their only allegiance is to you. Visit thetrustco.com. Mike Matson on Within Reason. Our guest is Peter Oppelt, Manhattan City Commissioner. Peter, let's talk a little bit about development, right? We've got Aggieville Midtown, which is ebbing and flowing. Yep. I get the sense it's ebbing. There's a big hole in Aggieville. The Commerce Bank has some ideas on what they want to do with that space. Clearly, the city will be involved probably with all of those big development projects. Give us a sense of how you approach those.
Yeah, this is another one that really kind of hits you like a tidal wave, drinking from a fire hose, as they say. And again, I'm going to quote Harry Truman when he said, "Give me an economist with only one arm," because there are very many hands to argue for this one. So when we look at, say, the Commerce Tower, I understand that we have a financial interest in development. And so, yes, if we abate this in 10 years, we will see some financial returns. But on the other hand, we have to be responsible with our taxpayer dollars and the way we do this. And generally, those developments happen in the economy, and we haven't had that. So, there's that argument there. But then on the other hand, we just talked about needing more housing stock.
Right.
So, hey, we have this company that wants to build 50 more rental units in town. But on the other hand, they are not low income or what we would call workforce housing. So that's what we've been focused on incentivizing. So there are a lot of dynamics at play when we talk about this, and I think we do have some general guidelines that we've given for our housing initiatives for rural housing incentive districts or reinvestment housing incentive districts, as they're called now, and industrial revenue bonds and things like that. This one does not fall into any of those. So we really do have to kind of take this as a one-off and figure out what's going to end up being best for not just the financial health, but the community as well.
When you think about private sector development and projects that could lead to, that would have some sort of a public interest, right, where the city gets involved, help us understand. I mean, let me put it this way. For decades, it was pretty easy to sort of recognize that there is one way of doing business. There is a free enterprise marketplace, and those who have an interest and who earn their living in developing property will do that, and the city will regulate where they need to, right? And the system kind of worked. If you go to the other extreme, there are systems that regulate pretty significantly and have a thumb on a lot of developers, and that causes a bad taste in their mouth. Where do you think Manhattan lands in that sort of spectrum?
I think I'd say we're somewhere kind of in the middle. Manhattan has been involved in some pretty major economic development. To my knowledge, we have not been very heavily involved outside of maybe the Starbond district and the downtown redevelopment in housing developments. Again, we have had those regulation challenges and changes that we've had to allow for those things to happen. But I don't know that Manhattan has incentivized the housing development as much as we may be looking at. So again, it's going to be kind of an iterative process and finding things that work and things that don't. We have this workforce housing sales tax fund that we're looking at just incentivizing getting stock, but I think we can be creative with this. It is our fund. It is at our discretion to spend. So we can really think outside the box and figure out what's going to work best with that money.
We talked at the beginning of the show, we kind of walked our listeners through the structure and process of the Manhattan City Commission and how U5 got there, right? And it's the unique deal with respect to resignations and people stepping down for any host of reasons. But you were elected about a year ago. Mm-hmm. You will serve a 2-year term, so you're almost halfway through your term.
I am
like a U.S. House congressman or a Kansas House member. So are you thinking about re-election?
I haven't made any decisions yet officially, but to quote Bobby Wood Jr., we didn't get this far to get this far.
Fair enough.
So it's been a really great. This has been the experience of a lifetime, really, and I think we've set up a lot of really really cool things that I would like to do some more work on.
So you are nonpartisan, so I'm not even going to ask your politics, right?
Sure.
That is by design. You have made the decision to run in an election that is nonpartisan by design.
Yeah.
But I will ask this question: do you see ideological sorts of thoughts and conversations creeping into your work?
Of course we do. There's always going to be some ideology there, but it's really difficult because there isn't a Republican stance on economic development or a Republican stance on housing. So it is these decisions that we have to make are so close to people that we can't have that party line. There is no party line with these decisions that we're making, because they affect ourselves, our neighbors, and so really we're all just trying to have the best city that we can, and not have power for the party.
Give us a sense of the way you think about building relationships, not only with your fellow city commissioners, but especially with now I've got a brand new city manager, right? That creates a whole wealth of opportunities that didn't exist before, just again by structure and process. So how do you go about building relationships with people that you need to work with?
Really just trying to talk to them as humans and figure out what, conversation, I think, is a lost art. And, sitting down over a cup of coffee or lunch or something like that, I think that's the most important thing, is just having that dialogue and recognizing that we are all humans. We are all going to we're all going to make mistakes, but we all want what's best for our community. We may have different opinions on how that works, but as long as we can understand that everyone in our community is just as valuable as the other person, we can try and work together and find out what's best.
We have about 30 seconds left before I need to start wrapping up. Any comments you want to make? Anything I haven't brought up that you had in mind that you wanted to visit about?
I don't think so. Just, I appreciate the show. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to reach out to folks again. Like, I really I want people to know that, like, we're all regular people and we're trying our best to make the best decisions that we can.
He is Peter Oppelt. He is a Manhattan City Commissioner. He was elected this time last year to a 2-year term. He has indicated, if you listen closely to his comments, he will likely run again. So you'll probably be seeing and hearing more of Peter Oppelt. He's the first of 5 separate individual conversations we will be having with Manhattan City Commissioners between now and Thanksgiving. My name is Mike Matson. The program is Within Reason. We hope you'll tune in again the rest of the week. As you're aware, we're dangerously close to an election. We are within a week of the actual election day. If you've been listening through our first couple and a half weeks, we've had a number of politicians on that are seeking your vote. We'll have one more this week, but tomorrow we will hear from Shanna Goodman. Shanna is the executive director of the Pottawatomie County Economic Development Corporation. She's relatively new into that position with only about the last year or so, and so she has hit the ground running. And like Peter Oppelt, she has had some major challenges to deal with, not the least of which are Scorpius and Caterpillar. So we'll visit with her about those. On Friday, we'll hear from Judd McCormick. Judd is running as an independent candidate for the newly expanded Pottawatomie County Commission. Guests on this program are entirely the domain of my judgment, and while I'd like to believe mine is sound, I've lived long enough to know that it's made better with input from others, so I welcome your ideas for topics and guests to appear on Within Reason. Please send me an email, mike.matson, M-A-T-S-O-N, at manhattanbroadcasting.com. My friends and colleagues will tell you that I am a prolific emailer, so please don't hesitate to reach out with your thoughts. Again, tomorrow, Shanna Goodman. On Friday, Judd McCormick. This is Within Reason. You're listening to us on News Radio, KMAN. My name is Mike Matson. Stay tuned to KMAN throughout the day. The weather is going to get hairy, and we'll keep you up to speed. Thanks for tuning in.
The Ramsey Show's coming up next.